Well, hello everyone. This is Jeanne White with the Connect Show again. I am doing another video. This time I'm back in Massachusetts, and I have a very interesting guest today that is definitely going to make a difference in this world. And her name is Mary Coughlin. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Jeanne. How are you?
Thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I'd like people to know a little bit about you. So if you'd like to just, talk about what it is that you're doing. Maybe, first of all, say who you are, Mary Coughlin, and go from there.
Sure.
We'll take care of it.
Alrighty. Well, I'm honored to be here. And
Thank you.
My name is Mary Coughlin. My background is as a neonatal nurse practitioner. I graduated nursing school back in 1982, and shortly thereafter I actually entered the Air Force Nurses Corps, and I was active duty nursing for 7 years. And it was actually during that time when I found my passion in nursing really focused on taking care of premature people. So when I left the service, I transitioned to a civilian job at the Brigham and Women's Hospital, where I worked initially as a staff nurse, worked my way up the ranks, and finally became a neonatal nurse practitioner, and just fell in love with the patient population.
Right. And so out of that came this idea that you had.
Yes.
And what was the idea, Mary?
So the idea kind of blossomed out of a recognition that these incredibly small people.
When you say small people, you're talking
premature
about
babies.
premature babies.
Yes.
Just so,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The premature baby population that they endured a lot of really difficult experiences at such a vulnerable period in their life.
Right.
Pain, separation from family, positioning, feeding, all those very simple, basic stuff that babies need to accomplish was just an incredible challenge for these vulnerable individuals. Right. And I recognized that there really wasn't a lot of direction for clinicians in how to address these vulnerabilities beyond their disease, just how to take care of these people in a really respectful, caring way.
And you came up with this to the nurse to become a little more involved with this young premature baby,
Yes.
and maybe help the parents to understand what is their role and how to help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was really the beginning of my passion around trying to educate clinicians, and what prompted me to establish Caring Essentials Collaborative, which is an organization that's committed to educating clinicians and families on the vulnerabilities of this very special patient population across these core measures for developmental care, which is the environment, the healing environment, which includes the physical space, the human space, and the systems, pain and stress assessment and management, protecting sleep. So these little individuals need to sleep about 20 hours a day, but when they're hospitalized, they're constantly disrupted.
Because they're coming to who's fixing this tube and who's doing
Absolutely.
that, or opening up and looking at the baby, or maybe the mother comes.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of interruptions for this little tyke that's trying to heal.
Absolutely.
Right. So you come along and you say, maybe we have a very easy, simple way to do this for this child.
Absolutely, and then trying to marry those two approaches together is really difficult, because the NICU clinician has X amount of tasks that really need to be accomplished in order to manage the medical condition of these individuals, but there's this whole other developmental aspect that needs to be protected, and so kind of trying to find a balance between the needs, the medical needs of the individual, the premature person, and their developmental needs around sleep, feeding, positioning, and then of course the family. The family presence is just so critical.
Right. Do you find that they need to be able to touch this little tyke a little bit, this little one?
Absolutely.
And I think talked about how important it is that human touch really does wonders.
Yeah. So actually, you remind me of a story that really kind of sent all of this stuff home to me. When I was a relatively new nurse at the Brigham, I was caring for this really, really small person who was just incredibly sick, born around the cusp of what they call the cusp of viability, which is about 24 weeks gestation. This poor little girl was just ridiculously sick, and it really looked like she wasn't going to survive. And because she was so sick, The parents were restricted from holding her because there was a concern that, disrupting her to be held would really compromise her physical integrity. But once it was determined that she's probably not going to survive, we probably should let the parents hold the baby. The team came together, and for such a small person, there was about 5 people around the bedside to move this little individual from the table,
all the stuff. Yeah.
absolutely, and onto the mother's chest to what we call kangaroo care or skin-to-skin care.
Yeah.
And over the next 48 hours, we actually watched this baby actually survive. This baby actually pulled through, and I'm sure everybody at that bedside is totally committed that the reason why that child survived is because it came in contact with the mother, and she was able to kind of establish a sense of self, a sense of purpose almost, from being isolated and incredibly sick and alone and not having any exposure to loving touch.
Yeah.
And then having that loving
I'm
touch.
out of this womb, and now what's happening to me? And now I'm put back on the mother, right?
Yeah.
Do you think maybe the baby sensed that this is the mother? Maybe there'd been a scent or something, or smell
Absolutely.
that reacted to this baby to make it feel secure.
I'm completely convinced, and as are the colleagues that I was honored to work with during the care of that individual. The mom and dad, we had these big kangaroo chairs, which are these like reclining chairs, so that the mom and dad can be in a comfortable spot, and they literally held the child for about the next 48 hours, just back and forth. Mom had to go to the bathroom or get a meal break. We would move the baby over to dad, and the child survived. Now, we've come a long way since then, because that was again back in, we don't
have to go on the date.
And I think more and more people are embracing this concept that it is really, really important. But there's a learning curve, right? And when you're trying to educate clinicians, you have to respect where they're coming from, and that's the other piece.
They want to.
It's all about safety.
Safety, and making sure that the child is taken care of.
Exactly. And so helping them move from a place of acknowledging that they're definitely committed to the safety of the individual, but keeping them, separated or isolated from the parents is not in the baby's best interest. So helping the clinician build confidence and competence and transferring that infant from the warming table or the isolate to the mother or the father's chest, and building confidence in doing that, because even though it may sound simple, as you had mentioned earlier, these individuals, they've got endotracheal tubes, they've got multiple IV lines, they've got EKG leads, they may have other types of catheters, and they're really small and just very floppy people.
And probably by hand, really.
Absolutely.
And so that they feel like, are they on alert that people are coming at them and they don't know what's happening to them?
So you bring up an excellent point. So these individuals are they have a heightened sensitivity about the world around them, but they have limited sensory function, particularly when it comes to their visual acuity. So if anybody, can relate, they wear glasses, their visual acuity for a really small person is something like 2,600. Mm-hmm. So they really can't see. Everything looks blurry and shadowy. They don't have color distinction yet. So they don't know if you're coming up to the bed or if you're just wheeling a cart by their incubator. Right. So they're always on alert because they don't know what's happening next. Right. Is it going to be pleasurable? Is it going to be painful? Right. What's going to happen next?
Do you find too that maybe we were talking before about having the baby's eyes covered when they're really small, so it doesn't interfere with the visions that they're going to have as they get older and get better.
Absolutely. Right? So the thing about these really small people, particularly the people that are less than 32 weeks gestation, they don't have a fully developed pupillary reflex. So for any mature individual, when a bright light is shined in your eye, your pupil reflex causes the pupil to constrict and reduce the amount of light that comes into the eye as a protective mechanism. Mm-hmm. But these really small people don't have that maturity yet. So we as clinicians have to protect them, because if you don't protect them, you can actually cause damage to the vulnerable structures.
So your company comes in and says, I can do what?
So what we do is all of the education that we provide is framed by the core measures for developmental care, and those are those criteria that I mentioned earlier: right. Sleep, pain, positioning, feeding, family, all that stuff. Right. And we educate the staff on providing this experience of care consistently and reliably. So it's more than just one nurse in the unit doing it all the time. That's not going to cut the mustard, right? It's about everybody. It's establishing so that the baby always gets the right experience every single time. Their pain is always managed. Their sleep is always protected, not just when Barbara's working or not just when Sally's working.
Right.
Everybody owns the responsibility of creating an experience of care that basically builds trust. And if you look at this from a psychosocial perspective, if you're familiar with Erickson's stages of psychosocial development, the first stage of development is about trust versus mistrust. And babies, whether they're premature or full term, they basically interpret what the world is going to be like around them based on whether or not there's consistency or not. So, and trust is consistency, communication, compassion, and competence. So in creating a consistently caring experience for these individuals, you actually can, facilitate a really positive transition for them to, maturation, because they're fundamentally secure in life experiences.
So how does that, I know that you're talking about the clinical staff, meaning the nurses, right? So now is there a way to help the parents understand their role in helping the child? So this is where your company comes in.
Caring Essentials Collaborative.
Yeah, we always want to tell that.
Caring Essentials
Do you have a
Collaborative.
website?
I do, www.caringessentials.org, and lots of good resources
A lot of
there.
information is on there, and maybe we could, I don't know, is your site available, accommodate a video on your site?
Yes.
Okay, so
That'd be awesome.
we can have your video on the site. We'll put it on.
Great.
We'll put it up on YouTube also.
Absolutely,
and
love
we'll
YouTube.
put it on Passionate World Radio, where
cool.
I do all that stuff. So for people to get the information out there, and that's what it is. It's about information. Do you do seminars?
So most of my work is around doing workshops.
Oh, good.
And
Good.
either hospital specific or just in a community setting where different folks want to come and kind of spread the word.
So does your website provide this information?
It does.
When you're going
Absolutely.
to have okay, that's a good thing too, right? Okay,
So,
I'm talking to the person that's doing the video, sorry. I get carried away myself, But I want people to know that there's a lot of information out there, Mary, for them. And please, I'm talking from a lay person now. I think the parents need to, know, because they're other than the hospital and everything, the most important role is the mother and father for the child.
Yep.
Or even as an adult or an older person in the hospital, touch and everything like that, but talking. Do they talk to the baby? Have they given the baby a name yet?
Yeah.
And do the nurses say, "Hi, Mary,
Absolutely.
how are you doing today? We're here to help you. Mom and Dad are coming in soon." So those are the kind of things. So that's the kind of stuff that you're going to be able to address to the parents.
Absolutely, and even though I haven't to date been the primary interface with the family per se, what I see my role is educating the healthcare professionals in managing that relationship between the infant and the family. So these core measure sets, certainly I educate the healthcare clinicians, but one very key core measure is around family-centered care and having the healthcare professionals understand the critical role that the family plays, and that a lot of, as NICU clinicians, we get a little bit frustrated sometimes, and even as adult clinicians, we get a little bit frustrated when, oh, here comes the visitors, here comes the family, and oh, they're going to mess up, I just tucked the baby in, and they're going to just mess it all up and throw off all of my good work. Well, really, if you can engage the family right from the beginning, certainly they're in a crisis situation at the beginning of the hospitalization, right? Just the trauma of having a premature person. But once that trauma kind of abates itself, then really your responsibility as a clinician is building a relationship with that family, helping them cultivate competence and confidence in parenting. Because a lot of parents, it's really great literature out there that talks about the struggle that these individuals have in embracing the role of a parent, because they don't feel like a parent, because they're not bringing home a baby. There's a lot of really big
stuff. And so this is where your business, again, the name of the
Caring Essentials Collaborative
is going to play a role. So I think that first of all, we're coming to the end, but I want to do at some point do a follow-up.
Okay,
You know,
super.
maybe down the road, you're gonna talk to me about a book you're writing.
Excellent,
You know,
yes, yeah.
maybe you're gonna talk to me about, you're gonna be doing more, traveling around, talking to the different hospitals
Yes.
or the families. And
Yeah.
I would hope, Mary, that you'd be willing to do that
Oh
with
my
me
gosh,
again.
absolutely honored,
Yeah.
absolutely honored.
So what is your website again?
So www.caringessentials.com.
Right.
.org. Oh my goodness. I apologize.
No, that's fine. Mary, I want to thank you
Thank you
again
very
for
much.
taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk, about, people, little people that need a little bit of care. And sometimes it's so simple, it's unbelievable.
It is,
It's
yeah.
so simple. Well,
And
sometimes
it's
we
so
just get-
critical.
Yeah, and then we go too crazy with becoming, we put a lot of things in place and we forget the simple things.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you again, Mary, for being on my
Thank you.
show, The Connect Show with Jeanne White. Stay tuned. We will have more videos again with Mary and talking about what new things that she's come up with her business. Again, thank you. You'll see this video on YouTube, on Mary's website, on my website, and her Passionate World Radio website also. Thank you again, and see you on the next video. Bye now.